Welcome into Raptors today, 106-103, a huge win to close out a 7-game West Coast swing for the Toronto Raptors. Akil joined by Sherm Hamilton. Paul Jones. Jonesy was on the broadcast, standing in for a sick Matt Devlin, so we'll get your thoughts as you were courtside. But let's talk about it, gentlemen, because the story was usually the Raptors rely on their vets down the stretch. This was the Scottie Barnes game. Took over the fourth quarter, 13 of his 16 points in that final frame. Sherm, I'll start with you. What did you see out of Scottie as he took control of this game?
I saw Scottie kind of just put it all on display when you talk about how he can impact a game, and we've talked about it many times. Scottie is so versatile as a basketball player that he can do so many things to impact a game beyond scoring, but when he decides to score as well, he becomes a nightmare with his size, and I thought he did a great job mixing it up, attacking at times, knocking down enough shots, and this was a big play.
That was huge.
He does a great job getting that shoulder hit, and it's one of the things that offensive players that are really good understand, because it's not a push-off, it's a shoulder hit, creates separation so they can go to their next move. He does a very good job of that, especially on the block. And then defensively, did a great job that last possession in terms of defending Jaren Jackson Jr. So Scottie's aggressive mentality is something we've been talking about. Have that downhill mentality because you'll make plays beyond scoring as well, and it was good to see him do that against Memphis.
13 of his 16 in the fourth quarter, and I thought what was interesting was he told Kayla Gray, she asked him about it after the game, and he said, well, it's money time. I enjoy the pressure of the moment. And, you know, Sherm, Jack, they have this term called stage presence. Like when the lights are bright, what do you got? The lights are on, it's your turn to dance, and you better be in rhythm. And I just thought Scottie did that in the fourth quarter. Sherm talked about the versatility of his scoring, playing on the block, making shots from the outside, and the go-ahead bucket against, like he hit a short jumper in the short corner to pull the Raptors to within one. And then I believe that play on Jaren Jackson was the one that put the Raptors in the lead. And that was just, for lack of a better term, old school big man basketball. Dribble into the lane, lean in, score, and he did it against a guy who people think could be Defensive Player of the Year.
Depending on if he's in Memphis or if he's on the road.
Although the NBA has said they go back and look at everything. Yep. Remember, Pascal lost a triple-double because the next day they took a rebound away. So I'm pretty confident the NBA is all over that. But, you know, in terms of Scottie, his aggressiveness, and I think it also depends on who he's on the floor with. Because when he looks around and says, hey, maybe I don't have to defer right now.
I was going to say, that was the big point, is he looked like this is my team.
This is
in that fourth
I
quarter.
can do some work with these guys.
But he did that. But even when Pascal was on the floor, they were still going through Scottie. Yeah. Even when Freddie was there, they were still going through Scottie. And to me, the recognition was, okay, Pascal doesn't have it tonight.
Yes.
Freddie doesn't have it tonight. I can fill this void. And he did a good job recognizing that and saying, I'm coming now.
He got it going early in the fourth quarter.
Without them
on the floor. Yeah. And then it was like when they came back on the floor, it's like, well, hey, let's feed the fire. This kid has it going. This guy's got it going. So, and the last play, to not go for any of the shot fakes and the stuff that Jaren Jackson was throwing out there. And he contested it, didn't foul. The shot was still, it was on line.
It had a chance.
But, hey, man, make or miss league.
All right, well, Nick Nurse is probably happy, very happy with how things turned out for his Toronto Raptors as they wrapped up that road trip, and we hand it off to him now.
That was a big play. Big play. I mean, it was 17 seconds left. It was, critical. It wasn't that hard a decision to use it or not, right? Yeah, I know, but I was trying to use it a couple other times tonight, and good thing I didn't, so worked out.
Just another game where you're really able to turn things over and create a lot of advantages. That's a team effort and commitment that you guys have been pretty consistent with all year.
Yeah, I mean, it was not great in the first half, Michael, right? But it was pretty consistent in the second, right? I think so halftime we just said, like, listen, I think we're getting some decent looks, they're packing the paint. So if anything gets too heavy, there's always somebody to kick it out to, right? There was plenty for Thad and Scottie and Chris and those guys as the paint clogged up. So we were going to get some kind of good, decent look. And I just said if we, again, broken record up here, but I just really stressed the early defense. We were just giving up too much, not in transition, but just off one quick action, and we just weren't quite ready on our help side. But then we finally got it figured out. And it reminded me a little bit of the Knicks game. I thought one of the Knicks games, the last one there, I just thought we kept getting them to take semi-tough shots, and they just kept making them, like long layups outside the lane. And I was just like, and then finally a couple of them rolled off almost exactly. And the Knicks kept shooting these turnaround fadeaways, and they kept making them, and we were really guarding them. And then again, we finally got them to miss a couple. That really ended up being the difference, I think, down the stretch.
A hot topic for Coach Nick Nurse this year, throughout the year, has been the bench, because we gave kudos to Scottie Barnes for his performance. We got to talk about the other guys, because as you guys mentioned, it was a night where you weren't getting the best out of Fred and out of Pascal, but you did get the best out of Thad Young. Talk about his role in that motion offense when they choose to move the ball a lot, how effective he can be, Jonesy, because this is what we've been waiting for, even though sometimes we don't get to see a lot of Thad. Sometimes we see more Thad than we thought we were going to get, but tonight that was the recipe.
I had a chance to, when I was exiting the plane, walk down the stairs with Thad Young. And I said to him, terrific job tonight, man. He said, 16 years. He said, I was doing that when some of these kids were in Pampers. And we started to laugh about it. He's just a veteran player that understands, A, his role, and B, how his role fits into the grand scheme of things and how to play. It's not like he's making every shot, but he's not hurting you. He's not out of position. He understands key points in the game, and I thought he was brilliant. And what makes it even more impressive is he can go games without playing. Like, he can sit there for 3-4 games, and then Nick looks down the bench and says, "Thad, I need you." Boom, he's in, and he does not miss a beat. And I guess that's, as we always talk about, is part of being a veteran and understanding the league, how it works, staying ready, being ready, and knowing your role, because your number will eventually be called.
Yeah, and Thad is an experienced, smart basketball player. And he understands spacing. He understands how to get to the right spots, especially on dribble penetration. He carves out space for offensive rebounding, and he knows how to get to his left hand. No matter what you do, he finds a way to spin back to his left hand to get that shot off. So he's just got a great understanding, and he's a very good passer. You put him in the high post, he can make plays from the high post. And I just like everything he brings from a stability standpoint for a guy who, like Jonesy said, he might not play. But when you put him in there, he's going to bring it. He's going to do it. And I thought the rest of the bench was good, too.
Yeah.
Chris Boucher was excellent.
Well, we're going to talk about Chris Boucher next, because you talk about the stability and the consistency of a Thad Young. Unfortunately, that's not what you've gotten out of Chris Boucher this year, but you've gotten explosions. And last night, the 17 points was kind of an explosion for a guy who's shooting from threes, kind of finding his stroke now. Sure. Or, Jonesy, you can go.
Well, is it 8 straight games now with a three-pointer for Chris?
Yeah.
And I thought what happened in Memphis was a bit of a carryover from Houston. Raptors were struggling in the first quarter in Houston, and Nick went right away. He went to Chris, who had 9 points in the quarter. He was 4 of 7. The rest of the team was like 3 of 17 or something like that. And Chris came in with that energy, made some stuff happen, and now he's on the bench at the start of the Memphis game saying, okay, I'm ready. Like, the coach looks down the bench. You look out from the bench. Like, are you looking for me? Like, is it my turn yet? And I just thought Chris always plays with tremendous energy, always. And sometimes it doesn't always go his way, but it's never for a lack of effort. And I think sometimes you just need that, somebody out there making plays, giving the effort, and
cutting.
And that kind of stuff becomes contagious.
Yeah, it's interesting with Chris, because Chris, his basis is playing with energy. When he does that, you just seem to see things happen for him. He's getting an offensive rebound. He's, as you said, cutting behind the defense for an easy dunk. He's in the corner wide open. His man is sucked in off dribble penetration. He's not trying to do too much. He catches it, lets it fly. But when he's working defensively, when he's on the glass, when he's blocking, altering shots, all of those things they just build into offensive production for Chris. And I think when he sways away from that, then he struggles on the offensive end. But he's been absolutely phenomenal. And the trickle-down effect, Precious goes to the starting lineup. Thad Young slides into that spot. Chris Boucher was playing well with Precious off the bench. When Precious came back, Thad Young slides in. They're both playing. Like, it's just this ongoing energy kind of passing of the torch to each other, and they just play at a high level. And this is the bench that Nick Nurse and the Raptors have needed all season long. They found a little bit of that now.
I think they were 30. They were plus 13 off the bench yesterday. I think they at one point I looked down at my stat monitor. They had like 38 points off the bench, and it was mostly Chris and Thad. And I thought Malachi did a nice job too. I didn't necessarily see big scoring, although he made a few buckets, but energy in the right place, moving the ball. Being
a point guard and running the team.
Being in tune defensively with the communication of the five guys on a string. He was part of that, and I thought he did a real good job yesterday too. And some of it flew under the radar until you really take a step back and look at what he did.
Okay, let's take a step back now and look at this road trip. As you mentioned, first time in Raptors history, they finished 4-3 in the positive on a 7-game West Coast road trip. Grade this road trip, because you were saying earlier you thought they could have gone 5-2 potentially.
Hey, the Utah game, the Phoenix game, they're right there, if not for a few moments there. I know shoulda, coulda, woulda, if, but it could have been a 5-2. And yesterday's 4-3, like the way they ended the game yesterday, and this is something we were talking about off mic too, that they had a chance to throw the towel in. They were down 15 in that third quarter, on the road, last game of a long trip. Man, I'm looking forward to getting home to my own bed. That's it. We're done. Throw in the towel. And they refused to. They really did. Now, Memphis was
depleted.
They aided their own demise by some of the things they did and the way they played, but the Raptors took advantage of it. I thought they played with tremendous resiliency yesterday, and that's a good sign. They're coming home now for some games you look at on the schedule, say, hey, there's some more wins there.
And hopefully a healthy OG.
Yeah, that would really help. But I thought it was a professional win. Like, they played a game that it's easy to figure out how they could mess up in terms of, like Jonesy said, check out and be out of it and just say forget it. But they stayed professional, and they hung in there, and they got a very, very good win. One of those wins that are good for the psyche, good for the emotion of the team to get it.
Especially when people were looking at this road trip as like, this could be the litmus test of what, because, trade deadline glooming. If you guys don't perform well, if they come in under 500 on this road trip, people are thinking very differently about this Raptors
2-5, blow it up, right?
Well, they'll say blow it up anyways. Twitter is just full of those opinions.
I thought this is something that we always talk about. That's the way you win on the road. Don't lose contact with that home team, and the crowd's going wild, and you just kind of keep running on that guy's shoulder, and then you lean him out at the end. And the Raptors didn't lead till late in the game, and then it went back and forth, and they were in a position to say, okay, we can steal this one. I thought that's what they
did.
The
Precious dunk was the one that gave them the lead. That was huge.
He saw Jaren Jackson's like, you know what? This ball is not leaving my hand for you to block it.
All right, well, we'll leave it in the hands of the players as always. Time to check in with the Toronto Raptors postgame.
Wrapped it out here in the fourth quarter. It's shorthanded, but still.
You don't have to do the backhand compliment, Mike. It's okay. It's a good win. You know what I'm saying? It's a great way to end the trip. I thought we competed. I thought we played some really good basketball for the majority of a long trip like this. For a young team like ourselves, and to be able to close it out with that fourth quarter, the type of night it was, nothing really going our way. Just hung in there and made a couple more plays at the end to come out with a victory. So, rightfully so, we're going to criticize ourselves and be hard on ourselves, but we should be proud of our effort and being able to come out of here with a win tonight.
Are you able to see just another gear that Scottie's able to take us on in the quarter, and what is that?
Yeah, I don't know what he was waiting on, but it was right on time. It was right on time. You saw it from the very beginning of the fourth. Made a couple plays getting downhill. There's always a great luxury to just be able to give him the ball and let him space out and just take advantage of his defenders and get the ball in the paint and make plays. So he was really, really impressive in that fourth quarter for us and just sustained that group while we, the rest of the starters were resting. So he definitely carried us in the fourth.
To go 4-3 on this trip, Fred, what do you think it says about this team right now?
I mean, we're a good team. We got a long way to go. We got a lot of work to do, but we've been trending upwards, as of late. We can't really worry about the past. We just got to focus on the future and whatever the future holds, just taking one day at a time. But I think, for whatever it was, 7 games in 12 days, some really tough opponents, short rest, short turnaround. But, we were able to come out and finish it off with a win here. And the games that we lost, we could have won too. We felt like we left a couple on the table. So we've been playing good basketball as of late. We just got to continue to build on that.
What did you see down the stretch in the fourth? You were able to get some big buckets going up against Jared Jackson there. What
I would just say really just got in the rhythm. Things just start feeling good, being more aggressive. So just got me in attack mode. And just trying to find ways to create open space so I can be able to put the ball in the basket.
What sometimes feels like the biggest difference between the first quarter and the fourth quarter?
Things get tight at the fourth quarter. It was just the ball was coming to me and I was having the ball, so I was just trying to get downhill, be able to win the game. I feel like being more locked in probably. I don't know. It was just things like that. And just being aggressive at the end of the game.
Anyone else?
So it's got a long trip, your seventh game of a 7-game road trip. Where did you guys kind of find that energy to have such a good spurt down the stretch?
I feel like we always got energy. We're always going to try to play to the end. We're always trying to win each and every single game. We just try to stay composed. That they were getting into runs throughout the game. We're just trying to stay together, stay composed, and trying to will our way back and just keep playing defense. I feel like playing defense was the primarily thing today. Just try to gather stops and keep playing the way we was playing.
do you go home with a little more optimism based on going 4-3 on the trip, but maybe having a little momentum?
I don't know about that one, but we're just trying to steady win games, trying to grind out the games. It's a process. We're just trying to get through it, stay together, fight through it. I feel like that's where our head is at, just trying to continue to focus on moving forward.
As big as that win was for the Raptors, there was bigger news going down in the NBA, of course. Shams, Woj dropping the bombs on him early. Kyrie Irving has now relocated from Brooklyn and will now reside in the Texas area, specifically Dallas. Let's talk about this trade. Dorian Finney-Smith, of course, moving along with Spencer Dinwiddie, returning to Brooklyn. Can I get your impression, Jonesy, of, first off, the request, and then how quickly it was executed? Because people thought Kyrie was unmovable at points.
If Wayne Gretzky, Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem can be traded, anybody can be traded, right? You look at the biggest people, the biggest names in sports, if they can be traded, anybody can be traded. And, to look at this right away, Dallas now has another dude to go with Luka. You take the ball out of Luka's hands, it goes to Kyrie, a playmaker, you double-team Luka. Now it's a 4-on-3, and you have a wizard with the basketball, making decisions, being able to finish, being able to score, take advantage of that. So Dallas is obviously in, hey, we're in win now mode. And
does this make you a fan of this deal, the position it puts Dallas in now as they move forward towards potentially another conference championship?
I don't know. It certainly increases their chances, it goes without saying. But looking down the road, did Kyrie go there because maybe there is a deal that we don't know about, or there's been talk that we don't know about that it hasn't become public yet, that he's going to get another long-term deal in Dallas? Is that one of the reasons why that trade went down?
Well, that was one of the main bargaining chips as to why he wouldn't stay in Brooklyn.
Right.
Sherm, what are your thoughts on the deal?
Well, I look at it from a basketball perspective first, and I say defensively, they are not a better team. But in the West, you're outscoring people anyway. So Kyrie is one of the best scorers in the league. And, Luka has carried a lot of the load, and everybody has been pining about the fact that they didn't re-sign Jalen Brunson, who would have been huge for some relief for Luka this season.
Maybe not Mark Cuban.
Now you got Jalen Brunson, on steroids with Kyrie.
Yeah.
Yes, agreed.
And,
help.
and I know they're different players, but Kyrie can shoot it. Kyrie's got, I think, the best handle in the league in breakdown ability, and he can finish at the basket. So now you can't overload on Luka, and you can't overload on Kyrie, because if you do that and Luka's one-on-one with anybody, it's lights out. So offensively, they're going to be tough to deal with. And I know people are saying they're both ball dominant. Well, teams have survived with two ball dominant players.
They'll figure it out. They'll figure it out.
They said the same thing about James Harden.
It's like playing in the playground. You figure it out. You eventually look at what the other guy's doing, and you can figure it out.
Kyrie's had a lot of experience. He's played with LeBron. He's played with KD. The only time that it went a bit sideways really was the Boston experiment. But I think now if he was playing with Jalen and Jason, he would approach it differently because of how good those guys have become. So I think Kyrie will understand that. It's the future. What happens next with that situation? That's going to be the question mark.
What does it do for, and again, we were talking off mic about this, what does it do for Tim Hardaway Jr.? What does it do for
Finney Smith? No, not Finney Smith.
Maxi Kleba
and Bullock.
Reggie Bullock, these guys? Like, think of shots they got before with Luka, now with Luka and Kyrie.
So my question now is, what does Brooklyn do? Do they stand pat with the roster they currently have, knowing there's a healthy Kevin Durant around the corner, or do they ship Kevin Durant out?
I wouldn't be surprised if there's discussions about Kevin Durant being moved.
I'm not sure he's too excited about staying in a situation where he's kind of the lone gunman.
No, coming off an injury and knows what it's like to play by himself out there. He's done that, and I'm sure he's not. And Kevin Durant, to me, is one of the best pros when it comes to just wanting to play, just wanting to ball. He wants to be out there all the time, and I really respect that about him. His career's a bit more advanced now. Does he want the expectation that can't be met with a roster on his shoulders anymore? I don't know. It wouldn't be surprised if you hear chatter about him potentially being moved as well.
There's, for whatever you take the rumor mill for, whatever it's worth. I mean, there's talk about Western teams interested in Kevin Durant.
Phoenix.
Right.
Everybody should be interested in Kevin Durant.
For sure.
Exactly.
For sure.
It's not the Kyrie market. It's a completely different market.
Yeah.
All right, speaking of roster turnover, the Raptors 905 have done a lot to change their roster. And recently, they've been playing some really great basketball, 2 straight wins against a team that was coming in as the top team in the G League, the Cleveland Charge, formerly Canton Charge. Right now, we hand you out to their broadcast team of Warren Ward and my guy, Matt.
All right, thanks very much, Akil. The Raptors 905 win 124-118 over the Cleveland Charge, and what was a big second-half comeback alongside Warren Ward. My name is Matt Cullen. The 905 Warren trailed at one point by 21 points, but made it a game in the fourth quarter, and there was a couple of key sequences down the stretch.
Most definitely, and we see them here. One of them being huge play here. Sterling Brown giving the ball up. Ron Harper Jr.'s drive to the basket. Very disciplined play. He could have shot that ball, forced the possession. Instead, he didn't. Drove to the rim, and you see how much it means. And then Jeff Doughton Jr. making Sharif Cooper pay for going underneath the ball screen. He's like, nah, you got to calm down. And then defensively, with the steal, getting their hand in the pass, and then Sterling Brown putting the icing on top of the cake and ending this basketball game. Much deserved win for this 905, and that's 6 out of their last 7 games, Matt.
They are rolling, that's for sure. But this comeback not possible without the bench mob, particularly late in the third quarter. The second unit getting it done here this afternoon.
They came in and changed the game completely with their energy and effort. There was about 3 or 4 defensive stops in a row, and this being one of them, getting a steal. Mr. Hawkins, I didn't even know you can get up that high, throwing it down. And then Tillman just inside and dunking everything. So between all that, the plays that have been going on thus far, and that one right there to end the third quarter, toe on the line, was a 9-0 run. Great basketball by the bench. They came in and changed the game completely, as I said earlier, with their energy, their effort. They got stops, and this team needed that. And that was the fuel that drove the engine in this bus, and the 905 got a win today.
And handing the Cleveland Charge its first 2 road losses of the year. As Warren said, the Raptors 905 are hot. 2 more games to go in this homestand. They'll do it against the Maine Celtics, the Boston Celtics affiliate. They're always tough. They're in town for a double dip starting on Monday. All right, Akil, back to you.
Coming back with some All-Star news, and it shouldn't be a surprise to nobody, Scottie Barnes will be part of the Rising Stars sophomore group, and people were really panicked about Scottie this year, gentlemen. Is this, going to temper the expectations? He's turned the corner. He's turned into quite the player. The Memphis game, probably the best one on his resume in terms of what the future holds for this young man. Will Twitter calm down? Will the fan base calm down now? Never.
That part of the world never does. It's their existence and how they live. I think Scottie raised the bar last year with his play. Like, he expedited the timetable for what people would look at as being great.
Set unfair expectations.
On himself at times.
Yes.
And we say it all the time, that development is not linear. The rest of the league starts to watch and go, hey, wait a minute. He can do these things. Let's try to take them away and see what else he has. And his game, it has to evolve. And I think we're seeing that. And last year, he made it tough on himself at times this year because of the way he played last year, Sherm.
But how hard is it to evolve as a player when you have that kind of ceiling? When the guys that you're playing with, let's say the Mobleys or the Greens, they're playing on teams that aren't really in contention, well, except for Mobley, for like a playoff spot, and they're going to get looks that Scottie Barnes isn't going to get with the Van Vliet and the Siakam ahead of him.
I know what he's going to say because we talked about it. You can also develop bad habits when you get all those looks if there's not the responsibility going along with it.
Sure, is he right?
Well, I think Scottie is in a situation where he is getting opportunity. We're seeing him get a lot of ball handling responsibilities, decision-making responsibility. Players are being called for him.
But it matters.
He's getting everything that you want a young player to get in an environment where accountability is at the forefront.
A winning culture.
100%. And I think the expectation on Scottie is deserved, but I also think it can get out of whack. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he's almost a victim of his own success to a certain extent. But believe me, there's no expectation out there that Scottie doesn't have higher for himself. So when those things meet up and the work ethic is there and the training grounds are there, which the Raptors have in this organization, if he wants it, Scottie can continue to develop into a great player.
Scottie's the future for the Raptors now. Joining him in the All-Star festivities for the Rising Stars game of the future of Canadian basketball, you've got Ben Mathurin, Andrew Nembhard, of course, and Leonard Miller. Which of these three gentlemen stands out to you guys as a big part of what we're going to do internationally, of course, as a Canadian team, but also as a surprise?
I would say Benedict Mathurin. He's got that killer mentality, that no play, like coming at you every single possession. And you need those type of alpha people. You know what I mean? On your roster. I like what he does. And I think the surprise would be Nembhard. Not that he's not a good player. He was a quality player at Gonzaga. He's a good player. But the fact that Indiana's playing so well and he's such a significant piece of that so early, I don't think anybody expected that. But it's great to see.
I love that about Andrew, too. And I also like the fact that he finished his college career.
Yep.
And there's a maturity, there's an experience, he's played a little bit internationally with Team Canada. There's all of these
well-rounded.
Factors make him more advanced than your average rookie that's coming out after a year of like AAU, 1 year somewhere into the league. Andrew's had some looks at stuff. He's had some experience, and he's also a terrific person. So he understands team dynamics. He understands playing for the guy beside you, all of those things. You look at his upbringing and his family background, too. So I'm thrilled about that for him. And a guy like Leonard Miller, he's growing into that.
Yeah, he is.
He's growing into that.
Both Nembhard and Mathurin on the bench for the Pacers, so very familiar with one another. And Mathurin actually just broke the Pacers rookie off the bench record, which I didn't know was held by Reggie Miller, who came off the bench as a rookie. That's shocking. I would have thought he'd have started. Well, our show's over. This is the finish. Big shouts out to you guys. Stay tuned. More to come. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode of Raptors Today. On behalf of Sherm Hamilton and Paul Jones, I'm Akil. See you guys next time.